Card collecting, a sort of underground cult-like hobby. Now, if you tell anyone else you collect cards, they'll give you a weird look and just assume you're sitting in your room all day playing with Pokemon cards, a bit like a social outcast. In fact, with my 3 years of collecting cards, the amount of times I've been called a weirdo is just too many to count. But the truth is, card collecting can provide an alternative form of investment, and this is high risk. I completely get that. It's not a investment in the usual sense, but once you educate people on some of the prices that these cards can collect, it blows their mind. Like, people just cannot believe it. For those of you who've been around for a while on my channel, you would have seen last year we pulled a £5,000 1 out of 1 Mason Mount autograph card, but that £5,000 pool is just a drop in the ocean with the amount of money in the hobby. So in honor of all of this, in this video we're going to look at the most top 10 expensive cards ever sold, and I'm telling you, some of these prices will just blow your mind. Now, prepared to be shocked. You might see me glance to the left, and that's because I've got my laptop out with an Excel of all the facts and figures. So I want you just to imagine a number for the 10th most expensive card ever sold. Just picture a number in your head. So coming in at number 10 is a Kobe Bryant Metal Universe Gems card, which sold for a whopping $2 million in 2022. That's right, the number 10 spot is $2 million. Now, does that shock you? For you non-card collectors, I'm curious. If you let me know in the comments, is that a shock? Is that what you expected? Let me know down below. Now, you may be wondering what made this card so special. So this card was printed in 1997. It's a 1 out of 100 card, and it was graded 8.5 by BGS. So for those of you that aren't too into the card hobby, you may be wondering what some of this means. So you have raw cards and graded cards. Now, raw cards are just as it says, it's the raw card. It's a card you pull out of the packet. Now, what you can do is you can take these raw cards and you can send them to get graded. So what that does is you send it to a company and they give it a rating out of 10 in terms of condition of the card. So for example, some of the big companies out there are BGS, PSA and SGC. Those are the big three, and they will rate your card out of 10 on condition. In addition to that, you also have numbered cards. So for example, the 1 out of 100. So these are like limited print runs. So that means there was only 100 variants of that card ever produced in one set. So that gives you an indication of sort of how rare that card is in some sense. So the number 9 spot switches sports with a Tom Brady card from the 2000s. Now, this is a playoffs contender championship rookie ticket autograph card, and this was numbered 1 out of 100. So BGS graded this card condition 9 and the autograph condition 10. So when you get a card graded, you can actually go into subsections and be like, grade the card, and if it's autographed, grade the autograph as well. It gets really into the details when it comes to this stuff. This card sold for a whopping $2.2 million in 2021. And a fun fact, a bit of a spoiler, but that is the most expensive American football card ever sold. Number 8 takes us back to basketball with a 2003/4 LeBron James Upper Deck Exquisite Collection Rookie Patch Autograph card. This card was a 1 out of 23 and graded 8.5 by BGS, and this card sold for $2.4 million in 2021. Number 7 is a curveball into hockey. So hopefully I say the name correct, but we have a 1979 Wayne Gretzky OPC card. Now, this card was graded 10 by PSA, so this is the first grade 10 that we've seen on our list so far. And this card sold for a whopping, I say whopping, I've said that too many times, this card sold for a massive $3.7 million in 2021. Great year for cards, 2021. So a fun fact on this card is an identical card literally sold 5 months prior, and that one only sold for $1.2 million. So within 5 months, that card had just skyrocketed it by an extra, what, $2 million in value. Number 6 is a second curveball in the sports world. So we have a 1 out of 1 BGS 9 2009 Mike Trout Bowman Chrome Draft Prospect Superfractor autograph card, which sold for $4.1 million in 2020. And a crazy story behind this card is the seller actually purchased the card for $400,000 in 2018. So that's not a bad return on investment if you ask me. Now we enter the top 5. So if you haven't already, I want you to picture what you think the most expensive card will be in terms of value. So taking the 5th spot, we have a 2018 Luka Doncic Panini National Treasures 1 out of 1 Logo Man autograph card. This was a raw card, it wasn't even graded, and it sold for $4.6 million in 2021. Spot number 4 is again dominated by basketball, and in fact this card is a similar card we've seen for spot 8. So taking spot number 4 is a 2003-2004 LeBron James Upper Deck Exquisite Collection rookie patch card, exactly the same to what we saw in spot number 8. The key difference here is this card was graded 9 by BGS compared to what we saw in spot 8, which was graded 8.5. Now this card, that 0.5 grade difference led to this card being sold for $5.2 million, and that was sold in 2021. We now enter the top 3, which again is dominated by basketball. So sitting at spot number 3, we have a 2009 1/1 National Treasures Stephen Curry rookie logo man autograph. Now you might start to see a bit of a theme here. A lot of the high selling cards are autograph cards and patch cards. Now, one thing I should have clarified at the beginning of the video is when we say a patch card, this actually has a snippet of the sportsperson's jersey, like often game worn, which is why they're so valuable, because it's a piece of history. It's an actual piece of their jersey embedded into the card, which I think is quite cool. And for reference, I actually have a Messi one here. This card has a snippet of one of Messi's game-worn jerseys, so it's a piece of history to me. Now have a guess what this card sold for. I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. So this card sold for $5.9 million. And a fun fact about this card is it was actually purchased by an investment trust. This investment trust actually specializes in alternative investments. So imagine that, it's been purchased by an actual investment company. Coming in at number 2 is sort of an ancient artifact. So the card coming in at number 2 was actually printed in 1909. So over 100 years ago. And this is a baseball card of Honus Wagner. Now this card is so old, it was actually printed by a tobacco company. I believe it was by the American Tobacco Company. And that's because back in the day, a lot of cards were printed by tobacco companies to sort of inspire or motivate or incentivize younger generations to buy cigarettes, because they could collect these cool cards along the way as well. Now this card was graded 3 by SGC and it sold for a whopping $6.9 million in 2021. And a fun fact about this card is nobody actually knows how many were printed or produced. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. This is one of the most iconic cards in the card collecting world. A lot of people, when they think of iconic cards in the card world, think of the classic Charizard card, you know, the base set Charizard card, the shadowless first edition Charizard card. But coming in at number 1, as you would have seen, it's more sports cards that are the highest selling cards. So coming in at number 1, the most iconic card in the collecting world is a 1952 Mickey Mantle card. So this is the most sought after card in the whole world, and this card was graded 9.5 by SGC. So I want you just I'll give you a few seconds, have a guess what you think it sold for. You've seen cards 10 to 2, so I'll give you a few seconds. This card sold for $12.6 million in 2022, so quite recently. And the fun fact about this card is the seller purchased it for £50,000 in 1991. So that return on investment, essentially over $12 million. And this card was sold at auction. And again, fun fact number 2, no one actually knows who purchased it. It was a mystery buyer. No one knows who owns this card. And that is the 10 most expensive cards ever sold. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun to make and research for myself. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like and make sure you subscribe for videos of just about personal finance, crypto, stocks, and cards.